talking today about what should you do if you receive a letter of demand. Well, if your letter of demand relates to infringing Getty Images copyright, I've done a whole course on that, a free course with an 8-step process and strategy. So jump onto that course. If you don't know where it is or how to find it, message me and I will send you the details of that. Other types of letters of demand, well, of course it depends on what the situation is. If somebody says you haven't paid and you've got an agreement to pay, well, the easiest thing is just to pay. If there's a dispute about quality or that you didn't get what you thought you were getting, the best thing to do is to try and discuss it with the provider. And so talk to them, maybe negotiate a lower payment. If you've got a letter of demand relating to intellectual property, that could be a little bit more serious. And in that situation, you may need to decide whether or not you want to keep using the disputed intellectual property or stop using it. So if you decide you want to stop using it and just, get out of the situation, never, ever, ever apologize. Once you apologize, then that could be taken as an admission that you've infringed. And so my mum recently got involved in a fender bender. Somebody crashed into her. She got such a fright. She got out and she said, "I'm sorry, is everybody okay?" That could be used against her, that "I'm sorry," to be taken that she's admitting that she caused the accident. So it's human nature to apologize. Don't apologize. What you want to do is focus on the solution. The solution is, if you agree not to sue me, I will agree not to use this piece of intellectual property. I'm not agreeing that I wasn't allowed to use it, and I'm not agreeing that it was an infringement. Now, if you're dealing with Getty Images, they will still expect you to make some kind of payment for the image that you used, and it probably in the hundreds of dollars. So sometimes even if you agree to stop the potentially or alleged infringing action, you don't always escape a financial consequence. But other than the Getty image example, most other situations, if you agree to stop, you will be able to not have to pay any money. So, for example, if somebody says you're infringing their trademark, very often all they want is for you to stop infringing and they will let it go. But understand that the longer a case drags on, the more likely you are to be liable. I recently settled a case for a client of mine. Her trademark had been infringed by a multinational company, an American company, and in the end they agreed. We didn't take it to court. We negotiated, but they agreed to pay $65,000 in a settlement. So you can't always get away with not paying anything. So talk about it, see if you can settle. The second thing is never ever ignore a letter of demand. I had a client recently who, she was away overseas, she received a letter of demand, then she received court documents, then she was sick, then she went on holiday again, and the result was she ended up with a judgment against her. So if somebody sends you a letter of demand, they are pretty serious and they can go to court. And if you don't respond, they can get an automatic judgment against you. Even if you're in the right, they can get a judgment against you. And to get the judgment overturned is very, very difficult. And so the second point is don't ignore it. And then the third point is, if it looks like it's not going to go away quite quickly, I recommend that you get a lawyer involved as soon as possible. And get a lawyer involved who is a specialist in whatever you've got the letter of demand for. And so, for example, if it's something to do with tax with the ATO, go to a tax lawyer or a tax accountant, somebody who's dealt with ATO disputes before. Find out how many disputes they've dealt with, how many have they won, how they might have a special technique that you can use to get out of the problem, or they might be able to negotiate a payment plan for you. For intellectual property, if you get an IP letter of demand, you're welcome to contact me and I can help you with that. If it's something else, a completely different topic, if it's to do with divorce and family. Speak to somebody in that field. Don't go to your divorce lawyer for the IP, the letter of demand. So receiving a letter of demand can be quite scary. Don't ignore it. Don't admit anything, or don't say too much, because you can inadvertently admit, and get professional help if it looks like it's not going away very quickly. Sometimes spending a couple of $1,000s right at the beginning of a case can really save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. And that's how you need to deal with a letter of demand if you are unlucky enough to receive one.